Strong for God Warriors, here to talk about life from a biblical and spiritual perspective. And today, I'm going to be telling you all about trusting God. So, there was a situation that happened in my life this past Saturday. As you might already know, I've been looking for a kidney for a while, and I got a call to receive a kidney. And I was waiting all day for them to call me back, tell me to come to the hospital. And then around like 5 in the evening, they called back and said the kidney was not good for me, even though I matched. And that is the inspiration for this video. I even had a dream about that day, months ago. It happened exactly the way it happened in the dream. I was called in the morning, and I packed my bags and I waited. And then they called back and said, false alarm. But despite having a disappointment like that, so Saturday was one of the worst days of my life. It was very angering and frustrating and felt like a waste of time. Like, I feel like I wasted my whole day that day waiting on them. Because they had called me that morning and told me to pack my bags and get ready. And they didn't call me back till 5 in the evening and said that the kidney was not good for me. But despite all of that, knowing what I know, that God has a plan for everything. That's what I want to let y'all know in this video. God has a plan for everything. Just look at the first verse in the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. God created the heavens and the earth. And that right there, just that first verse, that right there shows how God plans everything. Before the earth and the heavens, there was God. God already knew what we wanted and needed. And He already had a plan in motion for us. It's hard to see sometimes, but God always has a plan. The good part is, we don't have to think about or overthink everything, because God already had the plan. He has the hard part, we have the easy part. All we have to do is trust Him, and He will surely guide us and put us in a place that He wants us to be at a certain time for this blessing that He wants for us. That's what I realized behind that whole situation. Like, I was mad when they first called me and said that the kidney was bad. But now that I cooled off a little bit and thought about it, God just wanted to show me that it is possible to receive a kidney even with my high antibodies, and that it's not too much longer. I know that God has a plan for me and for that kidney. And about trusting God, all over the Bible, there are people that had to do some hard stuff that they didn't think they could do, but they did it because they trusted God. Let's look at Abraham. God told him to leave from his father's house and go to a land that He will show him. And God told him that to count the stars, and He said that He will make Abraham make his offspring just as countless as the stars, which He did. If you continue to read the first 5 books in the Bible, the whole nation of Israel, Abraham became father of the whole nation of Israel. So in case y'all didn't know that, God told him everything he had to do. Some of it was hard, some of it he didn't want to do. But in the end, he did what was necessary that God told him, and he became prosperous. In fact, he actually got rich, like pretty close on to the journey. But the blessings just kept getting better, over and over. Think about Daniel in the book of Daniel. So it was a king of Babylon named Nebuchadnezzar, and he had a dream, and he was like really frightened and puzzled by the dream. And so he called in all of his magicians and enchanters and all that, and he told them to both tell him what he dreamed, and also what it means. And so the enchanters and people, they were saying, well, you got to tell us a dream before we can help you interpret it. And the king never told him his dream, so he made him a threat. He said, if y'all don't get this dream, if y'all don't figure it out, I'm going to execute y'all. And they couldn't figure it out. So the king slit their throats, and they died. But then Daniel came in there and said, "I can't tell you what your dream is or what it means, but God can. My God can." Because back then the Babylonians worshipped a different god than the one true God like we do. But Daniel still worshipped our God. So Daniel, trusting God, he was able to tell the king what he dreamed and what it meant, and that was so powerful that the king actually turned to worship the God that we worship, us and Daniel, and he even gave Daniel and his friends like high positions in the government, and so. That's another reason why you should trust God. And even further about Daniel, remember he was thrown into the fire because he didn't bow to the statues and worship the statues and all that like they wanted him to. And although they set him on fire, God came and rescued him. So they never, like, even though they stepped in the fire, they never got burned or anything. But that's just how far it can take you to trust God. And also, Daniel was thrown into the lion den for praying, even though they had outlawed praying or something. And they came in there the next morning. They thought he was going to be eaten up by the lions, and he was sitting right there beside the lions, and the lions would not hurt him. So, I mean, Daniel, like, the book of Daniel is like an epic book. Like, you can learn a lot about God from that book. Like, I read that book, and it just made me realize that anything is possible when you trust God. And before I get too far into that, I'm going to talk about some other characters in the Bible. Moses. When God told Moses that he was going to free his people through him, Moses trusted him after a while, and he as you can see, he did what he promised. God always keeps his promise. Remember that. And so he led all the Israelites out of Egypt because they were slaves. So he led them out of Egypt and created a whole nation off of them. That goes back to what I was talking about, Abraham. All of them were his descendants. And David. David was a pipsqueak compared to Goliath, that big giant Philistine. And he knew that when he walked out there, people were going to laugh at him and all that. But he had faith in God. The difference between him and somebody else his size was that he had faith and he trusted God. In fact, he said that he knows that God will deliver him, just like he delivered him from when he had to fight the bears and stuff to protect the sheep, because he was a shepherd. And all David did was pick up that rock off the ground and took a sling and just slung it at Goliath's head. And then when he fell to the ground, David picked up his own sword and cut his head off and killed him. And that right there, all because he trusted God. God had a plan for it, though. God knew exactly what time and place they would go fight. And so God probably put that rock right there, right beside David, just so he can look down and pick it up and sling it at Goliath. But that's the whole point. I just told you about 4 different characters in the Bible. And sometimes when you trust God, it takes sacrifices. Like, all these people in the Bible, they did things that they didn't want to do. Like Abraham, for example. He had to, he was told to sacrifice his son, who he loved very much. And for anybody that loved anybody, you can imagine how hard that is. So, God told Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. And although Abraham was crying the whole way up there and was sad, he did what God asked him. But luckily, God changed his mind just to he just wanted to see how loyal Abraham was. Like right before he had taken the knife and stabbed his son, God stopped him and said, just do a lamb. And so his son was able to live, and they just sacrificed the lamb, and then that was it. But yeah, sometimes it takes sacrifices. And from the New Testament, Matthew chapter 19, verse 28, verses 28 through 30, it says, And Jesus said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And every one that hath forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive an hundredfold, and shall inherit everlasting life. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So that right there, those two verses, Jesus was saying how anytime you give up something or sacrifice something for his sake, you will be paid back 100-fold in the next life. And the whoever was first on earth is going to be last in heaven, and whoever is last on earth will be first in heaven. So remember that. If you get discouraged in life and you wonder why everybody else is getting things and you're not, just remember that. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And that should give you some inspiration. And then, if you read in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 12, it says, In whom we have boldness and access with confidence by the faith of him. So that right there was a verse about faith in God. As long as you have faith in God, this world is very little to you. Like, as long as you trust God and you have the faith that he has a plan for you, and you believe his word in the Bible, then you really don't have anything to worry about. I want to do this video. It's probably long, but I just want to do this video to let y'all know both an update on me, and it was a good opportunity to glorify God with it. So that's what I want to do. Everything that's like when you trust God and things happen and all that, that is ultimately going to glorify God in the end. Everything is to glorify God. So that's my message for y'all today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, feel free to share it with everybody you know, especially anybody that might benefit from seeing this video. And subscribe. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I got a lot more coming up. A lot more knowledge to share with y'all. So, be blessed, and remember, stay strong for God.